Daily Wire.
People were there.
The Daily
Let's talk about
Wire.
the Daily Wire.
Yeah, what is going on at the Daily Wire, Hannah Claire? I mean, I thought Tim Pool was going to buy them. I was reliably told. Yeah, I was reliably told by the internet that Tim Pool was going to buy them. Not a good situation. Apparently, they laid off 25% of their staff. Not good. They have completely canned children's programming. They're giving up on that, reportedly. And it's also reported that their HR person was indeed stalking and harassing employees and keeping a hit list of enemies of the Daily Wire. I mean,
the rumor mill is kind of crazy right now. I saw one talking about, I think it was their head of public relations, like she was fired and she put out a statement being like, no, I voluntarily resigned.
Yeah,
on the other hand,
okay,
like,
semantics.
you can voluntarily resign under tense circumstances. You
right,
know? Like,
right. Yeah.
I'm not totally surprised that the Daily Wire has some business restructuring issues. It's not like out of malice or anything. It's just they were a rapidly expanding company, and it didn't seem like all of their projects were getting the investments or profitability that they needed to sustain them. But I think it's the cultural stuff that is freaking people out. Like when employees are coming out saying that they didn't like it, or they're being harassed or stalked or things like that.
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't know who James Lee is. He has 120,000 followers. He works for Breaking Points, I guess. He writes that this is the woman, Liz Cordova. Let's see if I'm blocked by her. Not
she follows
feminist.
Me. You can follow her back.
Oh, she follows me. Oh boy. She probably because I'm on this list. According to sources,
so talented.
Yeah, Alyssa Cordova was Jeremy Boring's minion. Was one responsible for crafting the company's aggressive and paranoid media strategy. She allegedly stalked former employees online, kept folders of clipped videos of their, quote, enemies, and helped wage internal vendettas under the guise of PR. One source says that the disaster of their PR strategy over the last year was cooked up between Jeremy Boring and Alyssa. I'm confused as to what is the collapse of their PR strategy. What does that mean? Can you fashion a guess? I'm not sure. What does that even mean?
I don't know what their strategy was. I do know, just observationally from the outside, they ran a very tight ship when it talked about cross promotion, right? Like when the Crowder stuff came out or Candace Owens stuff, like there was definitely obviously some like orders
some
to not
talking
comment
points
on it.
Yeah.
Or like even when they, like Ben Shapiro released that song with that Canadian rapper who talks about American politics, Tom McDonald. There was a lot of time spent being like, oh, listen to this song. You'd get a tweet from Matt Walsh. They clearly have some kind of strategy and united front culture.
Yeah, there are very few leaks.
Right, yeah. But there have been leaks. And like, I remember you and I talked about this after Brett Cooper left. The only person who said anything positive about her, a lot of people said nothing. And then Matt Walsh said something positive, that he was supportive of her. And it seemed pretty clear they have a very like close friendship. She's like hung out with his family and kids and stuff, which to me was like Matt Walsh breaking from the Daily Wire.
He did break.
Everyone took it that way.
Yeah.
When really you would think like if there's no bad blood between Brett and the Daily Wire, because at that time they were kind of pretending there wasn't, then why would it matter if Matt Walsh said something positive?
Yeah, that definitely had, him breaking from the ranks vibes to me. Like that. Which,
if this is like Alyssa, the PR lady's job to form the ranks, that's interesting because it means that would be a sign that there is some internal breakage.
Yeah, they also said like Daily Wire forced Brett Cooper to break up with me, according to sources. Yeah, right. But then it says also internally, they've shuttered their entire kids division. And I can say I have confirmed. I extremely rarely like say this kind of stuff. But I have confirmed with a source inside the Daily Wire that this is true, that they killed this, which to me is very odd. If you were going to pick between putting out movies that guaranteed lost money in an oversaturated market versus putting out family-friendly conservative kids content where there is a massive vacuum Literally nobody does. I feel like if you're going to, like, obviously, let me say this. Daily Wire is not going to close down.
Yeah.
That's not what this is. However, they clearly said, well, we've spread ourselves too thin. We can only go so far, and we're going to make some cuts. And they chose to cut the children's programming,
Right.
which I think was wrong. I think they should have cut stupid projects like Lady Ballers.
Sure.
Like, ideologically, the only people that are going to go see Lady Ballers or What is a Woman or Am I Racist are people that already agree with you. But with the kids programming, you could actually put out wholesome content for parents that want, you know what I mean? That
it could become a staple for parents who are
yes,
searching for it. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you could, fight against kind of the propaganda. You could put out your own propaganda in this propaganda war for America's youth.
Right.
And like, I'm not saying it has to be cringe. Like, I think Lady Ballers failed because it was dumb. And like, it was aimed at like boomer dads that download Facebook memes on their phones and show them to you. Like, nobody was going to see Lady Ballers, even from the center of the aisle. You could say, so like, and then every other movie they put out, Fight or Flight or whatever it was called, Run, Hide, Fight, the Gina Carano movie, they were all only just okay. So people weren't going to go out of their way to pay to see those things. The Hyperions. But with, Chilla Time, this little chinchilla or the others, potential cartoons, people would have paid to keep this programming, I think. There's no product like this. I think they made a huge mistake in cutting that.
Right. I mean, it seems short-sighted to prioritize movies over the children's programming that is actually filling a vacuum. There will be always people putting out movies or looking for funding for their movies that agree with both sides of the aisle. I will say probably it is harder to create good children's content than they expected.
More expensive, certainly.
Expensive. It's animation. You have to have someone who is writing for children as opposed to writing for adults. And I think that just takes a slightly different mindset. Maybe you have to recruit. It, to me, seemed like the most unique thing that the Daily Wire was offering. And so the fact that they're shuttering it is kind of sad. On the other hand, like, you could know something is a good idea and also not have the staff and support to make it happen. Like, if you were like, oh, I want to create a conservative dating app, like, I know those exist, but like, if you don't have a programmer or someone who knows how to market it effectively or whatever else, like, the project's DOA. I think the impression is really that Daily Wire or the leadership at Daily Wire believed that these projects, like the movies, were ultimately more important than the children's programming, that they got more attention because they were sort of more excited about it.
Somebody in chat said that I'm missing the point that the kid stuff was Boring's baby. I disagree. Boring's baby is the Pendragon cycle. That's his baby. And they're allegedly 50 million over budget. And they haven't even started editing it yet, which seems to point to the fact that they don't have money for it. Like, if it's done, you would do everything you can to get it edited so you can market it and earn the money back. The kids' content, I think, bad cut. Nobody wants a low budget Game of Thrones. I know that there are people, out there, and Kirk Cameron, to be fair, also does put out kids programming with Angel Studios. That's true.
Right.
That's true.
I mean, what's interesting is that, like, from what it sounds like, they're just scrapping Bent Key. It's not like they are selling Bent Key to Angel Studios, who's going to expand what they're doing. Hypothetically, you could have a project that, like, you're like, we're putting a lot of money.
They could take over the show, maybe.
Development, right? I mean, I'm not aware of all the contracts and what would go into that, but like, they didn't sell Bent Key to Angel Studios and have it mold with or build that like children's empire that's already cooking. It's just gone, which is too bad in a lot of fronts. On the other hand, if you can't see the value in it, or if you can't staff it properly, how are you going to keep it going? In some ways, it was almost. And I don't know for sure because I don't work for the Daily Wire and I don't know anything about it. But like, in some ways, being able to say, oh, look, we have a children's program thing that's happening, even in name only, even if they didn't really produce that much stuff, it was a way of drawing more people in, having people sign up and support the Daily Wire because they're like, well, eventually you'll deliver this product. which I guess they're not going to, or they're going to stop doing it.
Yeah, I had another insider tell me something looks like, I'm not saying this is true, and the idea that this is that the Daily Wire doesn't have money is absurd. Of course they have money, right? Like, they have thousands of people paying them. But somebody shared this with me, and I wanted to share it with you guys and see what you think. This says, like, I would say the current rumors are pretty reliable as far as their behavior just does match up with desperation. Not to mention their lack of deliverables on promised original content seem to verify claims that they've cooked the books. Now, I do not assert that they're cooking the books. I don't think that they are. The fact that I think that would say they're cash crunched, perhaps. Yeah. I mean, look at everything that's going on with Coffee Brand Coffee. Like, I'm literally begging people today to go to Amazon.com, go to the Coffee Brand Coffee store, which is linked in the description, or just type in Coffee Brand Coffee, and then you can click and go to the store, and buy something, and leave a review. Because I have a major cash crunch. I have all the inventory in my fulfillment center, where we fulfill the orders. Then I had to double that to fill up Amazon with even more than I had. So I basically had to triple my inventory. So that's like 150 grand. It's good debt, but it's got to sell. It's got to sell. So Daily Wire has
any sort of business calculation. Like, some businesses take on some debt, assuming that they're ultimately able to profit off it, or like,
right. I
don't think it's crazy that the Daily Wire or any business would be like, hey, we're having a cash flow issue, we must reevaluate. But obviously from the outside looking in, you're like, I think you're making weird decisions that are emotional and not logical. Yeah,
if it was just we're having a cash crunch, let me be clear. Jeremy Boring was fired. I don't care what the spin is, he's done. The coach, and then some other high-ranking person was gone.
The president's
This person's gone. Yeah, the president's gone. This person's gone. These are not the actions of a company that just needs a little more time to get rid of their bad debt. And like, they go on to say, the lack of deliverables, I think, is a big part of it. That makes me very suspect. Where the hell are all these movies? Where are the children's TV shows that you've been... 3 years ago, Hannah Claire, they said they were committing $100 million.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, by the way, in chat, could the mods spam the links to Amazon? If you're out there, I am like literally begging you to help pick up some of my inventory on Coffee Brand Coffee and to leave a review. I'll explain more on that later. But if the mods or Neurodivergent, I'm trying to make you a mod. I don't know why it's not letting me, but please do. I'll pin that's a coffee store. I'll pin it. These things do not line up with, hey, we just need a little more time. They claim they have a member site with 10 million members. That's what they claim. Paying $250 a year. That's $2.5 billion in income. Their output, no way matches that. However, if this is a real number and someone's going to jail because substantial sums, I'm not going to even make that claim. I don't want to get sued. But like, I think that they probably just over committed and they're just making the correct business adjustment. Mm-hmm. That's part of being aggressive. Twice in my life, I've had to do this. Like at my coffee company, and at my own personal company, very recently, I've had to make some tough decisions because cash is extremely tight. I hope that in 6 months that problem's fixed, but at some point you got to pull the ripcord and you got to say like, well, do I need 3 video editors or could I get by on 1? Yeah. Do I need, 10 co-hosts or could I get by on 1?
Right. We talked about this a while ago. I mean, especially for companies that have a relationship with politics and after the election cycle, a lot of companies made layoffs, especially like, I'm not going to name any names, but like there are publications and media companies that like, we're not talking about that made layoffs. Like, it's not the end of the world. It's not like they are in like desperate financial straits all the time. It's just unfortunately something that happens when there's a time when it's really media heavy. There's a lot of ad revenue. There's a lot of engagement. Mm-hmm. And then you're going to go through a period of contraction. Like any business might make decisions like this. If you have a restaurant that, has been doing really well, but there's sort of a downturn right now, you might have to close 1 day a week to keep your profits. Like, it's not that crazy. I think what's hard is people, when you have a company that has a relationship to a social media presence, and you have a perception of what they're doing and how cutting edge they are and how big they are and how much money they have, and it seems like they are just screaming, we are successful, we are successful, we are successful. When they contract, especially if they do it in an ungraceful way, it surprises people. People don't believe it's going to happen. And so, especially because we talked about this when Jeremy Boring left, because he had sort of a front stage persona. He had, the candy bars, and he appeared on things, and people follow him on social media or whatever. It almost as if there's like the celebrity aspect to it. But just because someone has good tweets, or just because they're investing lots of money in things, doesn't mean that they are actually successfully managing the finances behind the scenes, especially if you are gambling, which I mean, you're a business owner. Like, sometimes that's part of it. You have to be like, I'm gambling
on Amazon. Here's the gamble.
Like,
I'm gambling that, like, my YouTube channel and this live show only has so much reach. And if I'm going to grow the company, I need a new growth channel. So my gamble is to go into debt for 3 months, hopefully shorter. And hopefully I can get a bunch of my viewers to go to Amazon, go to Coffee Brand Coffee, buy a Mother's Day gift box, buy our blueberry cobbler, our strawberries and cream, or our medium, or our dark roast. We have everything there. Leave a good review, or leave a review. I can't tell you how to, I can't ask for those. I'm just mean leave a review. And then normies will come along and say, hey, what is this strawberries and cream? It has like incredible ratings. Or what's this blueberry cobbler? Or what's this butterscotch toffee? Or what's this double calf? It has great ratings. And then that's the growth mechanism. But until then, I have to beg my viewers to go there and leave reviews, so that when people finally stumble across my stuff, it doesn't look like I'm some fly-by-night organization,
I mean, we all know when you go on Amazon, if you're buying something from Amazon, it's got like 2 reviews, you're a little more skeptical about it.
Yeah, once you get to 1,000, I think you're basically in the clear. And like, we have 600 or 700 on everything. So it's like, one big push will get us to 1,000, and then we'll know if my gamble pays off. And if it doesn't, well, then we'll send all the inventory back from Amazon, and we'll go back to what we were. And we'll be forced at that point to shrink staff, and we'll say, okay, well, this is all it's ever going to be. And maybe that's what, like, the Daily Wire happened with. I think that their election coverage was pretty much a pretty epic fail. I'm almost certain that our election coverage, as you and me, outdid them in viewership. And I think that they thought that was going to be bigger. I think that they thought that they were going to get more clout and more viewership. And I just don't think it ever happened. And I think that they had to make a difficult decision. They're like, we're balls deep in Pendragon cycle. We can't get out of that.
Right. Well, and again, this is where I say the other part is like the allegations that come out, the tensions, the interpersonal drama. Like, that's the stuff that I think is like, it would be one thing if it was just like, oh, they're, Bentkey's not making enough money. They said they have to close it. Like, these things happened in business, but the animosity that seems to be around the culture. And again, it's coming from people who have left the company. It's not all verified. Like, anyone who's still loyal to Daily Wire is not really addressing it. Like, that's the side of it that I think is making it ugly for people.
Yeah.
Not only is it that the business is contracting and potentially not doing as well as they have portrayed it, but also it seems like as a company, they may not be representing a culture people are actually excited to invest in.
Yeah. And I think like, I would say, like, here's the other thing I'm thinking that just could be the cold hard facts. Look how hard we push like the quartering.com memberships, right? The conversion rate is extremely low. Like, it was very, very hard. I'm like rejiggering the program now to try and get more people to sign up. But the fact of the matter was, we started that in hopes of paying for the expansion. It's growing slow. It's growing, but slow. Maybe that kids programming didn't really bring in a bunch of new subs. Yeah. Money is tight out there for people. And for asking people for another $15 a month, it's hard. It's a hard sell. And like, maybe the kids media just really did not bring in new subs, and they had to say, I mean, that's the reality of it. They have to bring in new subs. And if they don't bring in new subs, then 3 years ago, they committed $100 million to this. if I mean, that's thousands and thousands of new monthly subscribers you would need to justify that.
And it's like, where does the problem begin? Because again, I don't watch Ben Key stuff. I don't have a kid right now, but I had heard, big initial surge. People were really excited about it, but then it also wasn't producing new content. So if you're a parent and you're like, I signed up for this because I wanted something, but now my kid has seen the same, 10 episodes 50 times and they're bored. Why am I continuing to pay for this service when I could potentially use that money for something else that could benefit them, or like $15 a month for a kid, right? Like you could take them to a play museum or like whatever it is. It's sort of like some people might have rallied behind the project, but then the project never kept the momentum. And so they're canceling. I mean, I'm not really sure which one started first, but also like if you have people who are unsubscribing, then you don't have money to continue to invest in it.
And Resum in chat points out subscription burnout is real. Mm-hmm. They'll be heading to Rumble Premium soon. I agree. Like, even for me, I'm like, another. Like, that's why we do like the annual membership, because people are more likely to pay $100 once than be like, another $10 a month. Mm-hmm. I think that new subscriptions drastically dried up. I think they lost a lot of subscriptions with Candace Owens left. I think they lost a lot of subscriptions with Brett Cooper left.
Yeah, I do too.
These two things matter. I would be willing to bet that Brett had 100,000 people paying for her content. I'm almost certain she's got 50 to 75,000. Like, Brett fans are fanatical and they will pay her money. Mm-hmm. Candace Owens' fans are fanatical and will pay her money. Not only are they now taking 100% of that money, but Daily Wire lost 100% of it. Yeah. And so it is like, absolutely, I don't think they're going to close the doors, but I don't think this is I think they need to address it.